A pro-democracy legislator in a city on the brink of totalitarianism. Is there hope left for Hong Kong's liberty? Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Joining me today is Hong Kong attorney and activist Tanya Chan. She is a member of Hong Kong's Legislative Council. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Chris.
These protests have gone on for over 100 days. Police have said they might have to shoot a protester. And then on October 1st, they shot a protester, point blank in the chest. How has that changed the situation?
First of all, I do believe that a lot of Hong Kong people found that the brutality and the use of force has escalated since the 1st of October. And especially, we have seen a lot of different occasions that our police seems to have lost their control, and they acted in a very aggressive way. And not only to the protesters, but also to the first aiders, the reporters, the journalists, as well as the bystanders. So I think this is a very dangerous situation that our supposed to be professional team of laws enforcement team now acted in such a way. And of course, I have no idea why there seems to be such a escalation, a very obvious escalation of force. But at the same time, I really worry that there may be some instructions or commands from the high level of the police force which encourage the frontline police officers to use force with, I would say, with lesser control.
Do you think the more aggressive tactics of some of the frontline protesters are also responsible for escalating the situation?
Well, of course, you can see that there is a kind of escalation on both sides, but still, you can see our police officers got a lot of different weapons, though sometimes we'll call it is less lethal weapons, but still they are quite dangerous. For example, like tear gas, batons, and especially the use of batons. In the past, we can see that the police officers use batons. I don't think they use the batons according to international standards or even their instructions. So all these are in fact a very powerful and dangerous weapons that the police force are using.
And there's been some accusation that they're even using their rubber bullet guns and their tear gas in an improper way, aiming for the head.
Yes, exactly. I think all these incidents and different scenes make people really worried about the escalation of force. And it seems that they are now kind of taking a revenge on these protesters. So this is absolutely another level. And it is very difficult to turn away from the hatred or this kind of revenge or this kind of emotions. So it's very important for the government, for Mrs. Carrie Lam, to understand the situation, the danger, and the situation is so critical that I would say she's just 3 centimeters away from a point of no return, and that's why I really hope that she will positively answer or at least respond to our 5 demands.
Do you think there's any way the Hong Kong government or Carrie Lam can de-escalate the situation now if they're that close to the edge?
Absolutely. She has the power. She is our chief executive. And if she really understands, or at least she has some reflections or inspiration after having dialogue with the citizens in the last dialogue sections last week, I really think that she would now really appreciate that the importance of these 5 demands to the future of Hong Kong. For example, like an independent commission of inquiry. I think at least more than half of the not participants, sorry, more than half of the citizens that have a chance to speak, raise this point. So this is a very clear demand, and of course with the support of polls, all these very important information that she can refer to, and she can of course give a positive answer to our society. And of course the fifth demand, it's universal suffrage. I think that's clear. Without universal suffrage, we can't even hold her accountable to Hong Kong people. So I think this is the only way forward if she positively responds to our 5 demands.
Well, speaking of the investigation into police brutality, I know recently you spoke at the UN asking for their help to investigate that. What role do you think the international community has in the Hong Kong protests?
After all these more than 110 days of protest, it seems that we have a great difficulty in getting this independent commission of inquiry, and you can see very clearly that the biggest obstructions or objections is from the pro-establishment camp, but still. We really hope that the UN, the United Nations, the Human Rights Committee will appreciate our situation and will set up this independent inquiry. I think this is the fairest way to look into the matters, not only police brutality, but if they want to investigate the cause of this whole protest, please do. I think that's the way to go forward. And this is the only way that we can understand the situation and to improve in the future.
Now, there's been talk of passing an anti-mask law or invoking emergency ordinances to stop the protests. Do you think that would work?
Frankly speaking, I don't think that will work. They will only make people even angrier. And after using all these very brutal force, unnecessarily and disproportionately, you can see that people still took to the street, even without the notification from the police. And it seems that people are quite determined to fight this battle. And so with all these anti-mask law, or even curfew, I'm afraid that they won't turn people away. They will just make people, again, take to the street and join any assembly or walk or march they can.
Don't the people who are pushing the anti-mask law and the emergency powers ordinances, don't they know that people will just ignore those?
Those who are pushing these laws are those who encourage, I believe, that are those who encouraged Mrs. Carrie Lam to put forward, or at least to push, the extradition bill 4 to 5 months ago. So I don't think these people understand the present situation in Hong Kong, or they understand it, but they just turn a blind eye to the critical situation, and they just, or maybe it's something that the Chinese government wants to do, because after passing, or actually after the 1st of October, the National Day, they can do anything they want, they think. And probably they will use an even more high-handed method to suppress or to press Hong Kong people. So this is part of their strategy.
What do you think legislators like yourself can do to challenge Beijing's will in Hong Kong?
Unfortunately, we are the minority. Under the present political situation, it may be very difficult for us to get all these motions or even these motions to be passed. But if the government, or if Mrs. Carrie Lam wants to pass this very powerful law, for example, like the anti-mask law, by using this emergency, based on emergency regulations ordinance, I think this will have a very long-term and negative effect on Hong Kong. And it will definitely affect Hong Kong's economy and reputation, international reputation. So I really want to remind her that though it may have some short-term effect, it will definitely adversely affect Hong Kong in the long run.
What would these emergency regulation ordinances, what would they do? What kind of powers would they give Carrie Lam?
First of all, this emergency regulation ordinance is a very powerful ordinance because the name, you can tell from the name. And Mrs. Carrie Lam can avoid to take the bill to the legislature for legislature scrutiny. So she, together with the Executive Council, can pass a law which is even inconsistent with the present ordinances in Hong Kong, for example, like the Bills of Rights. So it's very easy for her to take away our freedoms, our civil rights, without any scrutiny of legislature. So it's a very, very dangerous, but at the same time, a very powerful law.
So it seems like there's some kind of shady things being done with basic law.
Yes. And at the same time, it's very difficult for legislators to voice out or even to interrupt the only venue left, probably it's our courts. But is it, again, for court to resolve political problems? I don't think that's the appropriate venue for courts to do so.
So more than 2,000 people have been arrested since the start of these protests. You yourself were arrested for participating in the 2014 umbrella movement and given a suspended prison sentence. What are these protesters facing after arrest?
First of all, of course, is the pressure for if they got arrested and they've got bail. Of course, they need to follow the bail terms, no matter it's a court bail or a police bail. Secondly, they may be charged. The prosecution may lay charges against them anytime, and whether this situation will affect their decision in the future, I don't know. But obviously, for example, like for me, I've been arrested for 3 times, and they charged me at the very last occasion with 2 very unusual charges. One is incite people to commit public nuisance, and the second one is incite others to incite public nuisance. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's the reason why I need to name my 2 counts of charges, because it's not usual. And in fact, at that moment, you can see that in Hong Kong, we have other charges that is more normal and usual that can be used by the prosecution. But by charging us with, we call it inchoate offenses. That means aiding and abetting or inciting. This kind, we call it inchoate offenses. The maximum penalty of these offenses is 7 years. So they can immediately escalate the maximum penalty of our charges. So they make sure that we are going to face the most serious charges that they can handle, or at least they can try to prove. So that's our situation, and of course from 2014 till now, we have only gone through the first level of the court. So we have our case. Has been handled by the district court, and now we are waiting for Court of Appeal. And probably we'll go to the Court of Final Appeal. So the whole process may take like 3 to 4 years to finish. And so So I can only tell those who are being arrested, please do seek your legal advice. But at the same time, as a legislator with a legal background, I would tell them that think twice before they act, because I think both of them are prepared, or at least prepared in the sense that they understand the possibility of being charged, but still you may need to face them, and you may need to face them for a very long time. So I still believe that people should think twice before they act.
So when you say that, is that should they not be protesting, or how can they balance this fight that the protesters believe in with staying safe?
As far as I understand, some or most of the protesters do understand that they are participating in different kinds of activities. And all these activities, some of them may lead to various potential legal charges or criminal charges that may affect their future. And but still, this is the only thing that I really want to tell them is to think twice, because that is something that not only will be faced by yourself, your own self, but may be faced by your whole family. But I respect the decision, but still, this is a decision needs to be made with sufficient information, for example, like legal information, as well as an understanding of the potential consequences, legal consequences, and the consequences on their future.
So is the Hong Kong judiciary system, is it still impartial, or are these politically motivated arrests?
Well, for the arrests, of course, because it's all handled by the police, I still believe that the police can do a better job. For example, like you can see the difference between the umbrella movement versus now. For example, like normally during the during the umbrella movement, for those who are arrested, the police normally would only detain them for like 10 or even 10 to 16 hours. And then they finish their investigation and they would release them on bail or just detain them and until unconditional release. But now, normally they would just detain them for 40 hours with a house search and with 2, 3, 4 statements. And those irregularities that I've heard from the lawyers, and even worse. It's really worse. It's really horrible during during this protest. For example, like the lawyers wait outside to meet their clients for hours, even more than 10 hours without seeing them. And though their clients requested to see their lawyers, but without seeing their lawyers, the caution statement were taken without legal advice, without meeting their lawyers beforehand, despite request has been placed or made to the police officers. So these are absolutely taking away their civil rights, and it's against the practices and against law. But the police just ignore it. And I think a lot of malpractices happened during these 4 months. And because I'm a lawyer, I went to North Point Police Station, I think on Monday. And the first thing we do is to file a complaint with the duty officer at that police station, because the lawyers have been waiting for more than 10 hours to meet their first client. And they have a whole list provided to the police, more than 10 hours. So that's the situation. And those malpractices are, well, I think I can't say limited, but at least it's kind of under control during the umbrella movement. So I think this is something that is unfair, impartial, and definitely is affected by their political affiliation or political views. So I think this is absolutely unacceptable.
It doesn't seem like the protesters are going to give up, but it also seems like the Chinese Communist Party is not going to give ground. How does this end?
I'm afraid that the Chinese government is going to use a even more harsher or stronger, harder attitude. They will just have a harder and tougher attitude towards Hong Kong. So now Carrie Lam is just a puppet. I'm afraid that the Chinese government will just interfere in all kinds of matters which is supposed to be under our local jurisdictions. For example, like the extradition bill. I understand there is rumors saying that, or there is news saying that our chief executive, Mrs. Carrie Lam, needs to get the approval from Premier Xi in order to withdraw the bill. So I'm afraid that Chinese intervention in our local matters will become more and more often.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.